Good morning. My name is Virginia McLean, and I serve on the Board of Trustees here at the Unitarian Universalist Church of Spartanburg. That always makes me feel good. I am delighted to welcome you all this morning, whether you are here in person or joining us virtually. This is a welcoming congregation where everyone is welcome, just as we are. If you are visiting with us this morning, we would love to meet you and share more about the life of this congregation with you. Visitor cards may be found in the pocket on the back of the chair in front of you, and please feel welcome to fill one out and place it in the offering plate so that we can contact you. There are many important announcements on the sheets entitled Connect at the back of your bulletin this morning, so please make sure that you read all of those to find out what you can be a part of. This fall, our Mission Vision Covenant team is hosting a final series of gatherings to work on the mission objectives that will guide us over the next few years. You can find information about these discernment meetings, including the dates, on the front page of the Connect. Our first two gatherings were an overwhelming success. I personally attended the ice cream social, and we had a lot of fun and got to know some new people, so it was a lot of fun. Y'all should really sign up for one. There are two more to choose from, so please, please, please make plans to attend one of the meetings. And then on November 18th, we are going to have a church-wide meeting where we will determine our mission objectives together. All of us have an idea of what this congregation ought to be doing, and that is to say we each have a vision for this congregation, and our many visions are not all the same. These meetings will help to align our many visions into a shared vision, reduce conflict by having a shared purpose, and fuse our energy and gifts to enhance the life of this congregation for all. So please sign up and come. Thank you all for making this a place of care and kindness for every one of us. Thank you for making this a place of joy.
For the lighting of our chalice this morning is from an interview by Bill Moyers, great journalist, with the scholar of comparative religion, Joseph Campbell, reflecting on the transcendent. No matter what system of thought you have, it can't possibly include boundless life. And when you think everything is just going that way, the trickster comes in and it blows. Now, Carl Jung had a wonderful saying: religion is a defense against a religious experience. Well, you'll have to explain that. Well, that means religion has reduced the whole thing to concepts and ideas. And having the concepts and ideas short-circuit the transcendent experiences. The experience of deep mystery of what one has to regard as the ultimate religion's experience. Now, that song can inspire a transcendent religious experience. Notice our wonderful rippling bowl. We place a stone or a shell into it to magnify our joys and lessen our concerns. As the ripples go out, they represent our energy. 2 stones will be placed in the bowl for people who are watching virtually. Please come forward and place your stone or shell now. As Unitarian Universalists, we don't have a set statement of belief because we affirm the individual's responsibilities to search for truth and meaning. Our covenant was developed by this congregation through the democratic process to express how we want to be with ourselves and the community. Many of us know this by heart, but it's found in your order of service. I invite you to recite it with me now. We are a people of faith and hope. Together we covenant to strive to become our better selves, to honor both the critical mind and the generous heart, to prove that diversity need not mean divisiveness, and to respond to systems of violence and oppression with the power of a love beyond belief. During this part of the service, we set aside time to personally greet one another. We ask that everyone honor each other's wishes concerning personal space. You are also welcome to remain seated privately. For those of you who are watching virtually, feel free to text or phone someone you care about. When you hear the music playing, please return quietly to your seats so that we can continue the rest of the service. Now, as many of us like to say, let the holy chaos begin. Hey, good morning. Good to see you. This is the time in our service where we to reflect and consider giving monetarily to the church. We give of ourselves in many ways to sustain this community. Each month, we share to the plate with a different worthy organization. Half of all the money loose in the collection plate, all designated funds go to the recipient. You can also donate to it off of our webpage. This month, these funds go to the Converse University Valkyrie Supply. And Lisa Smith DeVois is here to tell us a little bit about it.
Good morning. I am Eliza Smith Debevoise. I'm the university chaplain and the director for community engagement at Converse down the street. I'm excited to be back with you all this morning and grateful to be here. I had the opportunity to be with you all a couple of months ago and was excited to get the invitation to come back. I wanted to thank you for your support this month of Valkyrie Supply, and I wanted to tell you a little bit about our projects and our operation. So Valkyrie Supply opened in February of this year, so we're very new, but it's our basic needs hub on campus for our students. So what we've done is combined professional clothing with a food pantry and personal hygiene products, all co-located in one space. We know that food insecurity on college campuses is a rising issue across the nation. We know that 1 out of every 3 college students will at some point experience food insecurity, and that 2/3 of our college students nationally are what we call non-traditional students. So those are folks that may be working full-time in addition to being in school, or maybe the primary caretakers of their household. Converse is definitely starting to reflect the national reality, and so this has been our response to food insecurity, particularly within our own designated context. So we see about 700 student visits a month, and about 95% of our operation is possible because of community partners who are willing to host drives for us. So if you ever have professional clothing that you'd be willing to donate to us, we take that all year round, kind of in a rolling donation format. But like I mentioned, we stock our personal hygiene products in our shelf-stable food every month by asking local congregations and community partners to host drives for us. So everything that we collect that's been given to us this month by the UU at the end of the month will then go to stock the bulk of our inventory for our students in October. We are grateful for your willingness to be involved and engaged with us, and we thank you very much for being a neighbor.
As the collection plate is passed to you, please grasp it with both hands. Consider a financial gift and pass it to the next person. May the ushers please come forward. Now, please turn in your hymnal to responsive reading 666, The Legacy of Caring. I will say the print, and everybody says the italicized. Despair is my private pain, born from what I have failed to say, failed to do, and failed to overcome. Yourselves. Let me rise into you. Let me reach down into your pain and soothe you. I turn to you to renew my life. I turn to the world, the streets of the city, the worn tapestry of brokerage firms, drug dealers, private estates, personal things in the back cart. Rage and pain in the faces that turn from me and afraid of their own inner world. And I begin anew the legacy of caring.
When we were gathered this morning before the service, the drizzle of rain turned into torrential downpour. And I thought, thank God we have live stream this Sunday. But here you are. Thank you for being here. And different than we usually do, I want to take just a moment to recognize a few of our guests. This will not be everyone, and what I'm going to say in no way is meant to leave anybody out. So please forgive me for acting out of my ignorance. It is not an intentional form of neglect. But even as we have folks who have spread out over many states this Sunday doing important things as friends and on retreat and resting, we have folks who have flowed here with us. The first that I want to recognize is our oboist, Kelsey Leahy, who is a peripatetic musician who takes her music all over the country, but as a Wofford graduate, has been connected with this congregation now, by my reckoning, for more than a decade. And whenever Kelsey is in our region, even several hundred miles comprising that region, she reaches out in order to share her music. I want to express gratitude that Kelsey has traveled here again today across great distance to be with us. Thank you, Kelsey. During the pandemic, our congregation engaged in a crucial partnership with the Latinx immigrant community in order to provide direct resources for food and housing and utilities at a time when families who had just one family member who was out of status, just one member of the household who was not a citizen of the United States, everyone in the family was excluded from financial aid from our federal government. It seemed explicit, right? Even in a family where there was one adult out of status, none of the children in that family received federal assistance during the pandemic to help that family through. And so partners reached out to us to ask, could our congregation help design a project that would provide direct assistance for those families. And our key partner in that work is Pasos, which is headquartered in Columbia and has chapters all across the state, one profound chapter here in Spartanburg, our primary beginning partner. And one of the key leaders of Pasos at that time, and still in association with Pasos today, is a gentleman named Mike Young. And Mike has come to be with us today. Would you please give an expression of gratitude to all of Pasos through this one leader? At the end of that project, we had helped more than 6,000 people in every county of our state and more than $300,000 of financial assistance. And that happened because of the power of that partnership. Would you please express our gratitude to Pasos through Mike's presence here today? I walked up to shake his hand, and he said, "Oh, we're friends on Facebook. My name's Mike Young." And I said, "Oh my God, you're Mike Young." We are honored today. And we have with us the confirmation class this year from our sister congregation. Just through the trees, you can see their bell tower, the Episcopal Church of the Advent. Every year, the confirmation class from the Advent comes to visit our congregation in order to experience what we as their siblings in the religious quest think and express and pursue. And why they come back every year, I don't know. But here they are again this year. And my understanding from their youth director is that over the course of years, they have moved the visit to the UU up to the very beginning of this pilgrimage that they take to congregations all through our city. Because after you visit the UUs, everything else just seems normal. Because we are a gathering that intentionally pushes on institutions and challenges thought and gathers in wisdom from many sources. And so this is a good place from which to begin a pilgrimage across all of our religious differences to learn who our neighbors are. Can we give a round of applause for the courage of this group to come every year and engage? We've been talking this month about the transcendent experience, and part of that is to seek it, to go on a quest. And these youth in our community are on a quest for their own religious commitment and the promises they will make in their life, the values they'll hold. And even if there are differences in what we think and feel and believe, that is a quest that we want to support. We're glad you all are here today. Join me in silence. institutions, and mystics. My son and I were discussing the independence movement in India and the great leader of that independence movement, Mohandas Gandhi. And I shared with him a quote from Gandhi. Gandhi said, "I read the New Testament." This man born into a Hindu family in India who traveled to London to study as a lawyer under the British Empire, and then practiced law first in South Africa and then in India before becoming a leader of the independence movement from the British Empire. This man of profound political and spiritual conviction and leadership. He said, "I read the New Testament, and I would become a Christian if it were not for the actions of the Christians." This man of profound spiritual search found in the life and teachings of Jesus power and connection with the divine and an ethic by which to live that moved him to the point of shift and commitment within himself. And in 1919, in a square in a marketplace in North India, British troops fired a volley of gunshot into a crowd and massacred the innocent bystanders there, catalyzing the independence movement of people whose ancestry was deep in the Indian subcontinent. Every form and caste of Hindu practitioner and Muslim believer and indigenous Indian Christian coalescing in a multi-religious movement to fight for freedom against economic and political oppression. And when Gandhi looked at the race laws that he fought against as a barrister in South Africa, instituted by a nation that claimed to be Christian, and looked at the violence of centuries of empire, he could not affiliate with the institution, whose message, nonetheless, he found life-changing. We've been talking all this month about the experience of transcendence, an experience that holds together opposites, experience of ultimate reality so profound that it takes all of those things that seem in contradiction to each other in our lives, including the experience of life and death itself, and somehow holds them together, existence and non-existence, God and not God, reality and illusion, ecstasy and despair, terror and bliss, all of these things that we call sublime and transcendent, somehow brought together in one blinding moment that breaks through the surface of reality to the depth of reality. And we find wholeness, a wholeness we can barely grasp, and that words cannot keep up with, that we stumble to articulate, but we carry with us our whole lives. A man out in California listened to one of our services this month, and he called me and said, "I've got to tell you about what happened to me." He said, "I went on a spiritual quest. I was in a group that guided that quest. And on the first night, I experienced all of the fears of my life. Everything I had lived, through almost 40 years of life came to me as in a dream, and I was assailed by regret and terror and doubt. But the people with me held me and guided me through that dark night. And on the second night, I was flooded with a sense of seeing every star in the sky and the connection between all of those stars, constellation connected to constellation, and then people that I know in the stars, my father long dead, my mother struggling with addiction, my sister and my other sister and their children. I could see them all. This man who I have known for decades and who I love said, "I saw your son driving, and that can't possibly be what I saw because he's not 15 yet. He couldn't have been driving." And I said, "What night did this happen on?" And he said, "It happened on this night." And I texted him a photo, and I said, "Actually, I took my son driving in a parking lot that night. And here's the picture." And he said, "Oh my God, I saw your son driving. I saw all of these people. And I felt so loved." And on the third and fourth nights, a feeling of total maternal acceptance, of being held by the warmth of unconditional love, beyond anything he had learned in catechism, anything he had experienced in meditation, beyond anything he had felt in years of psychotherapy, feeling the embrace of love surrounding him. He said, "I went back to the same job I was doing before, but I knew it was the right job for now. And I've done it with so much clarity and kindness and strength. It's as if it is a totally new job." This experience of transcendence that annihilates us, blows us apart, and reconnects us. And we taste that in the experience of music. I saw so many of you at the symphony last night. And that second movement of Dvorak's New World Symphony, and it goes to utter silence at the conclusion of that movement. You could feel that symphony hall go to a different place of existence, of utter fulfillment and sadness that the movement was over. Bliss and sorrow combined. Music causes us to touch this place where we are in ourselves and beyond ourselves at the same moment. Nothing about belief, but all about breaking through to deeper reality. A man I know talking about standing in front of Impressionist painting. And what he said is, when I look into those paintings, those water lilies by Monet, it is as if I disappear between the lilies and through the water, and I'm lost to myself, standing there in the presence of that vast creative beauty, and come back to myself whole. Or think of the experience of love. No judgment here about the kind of love or what base you reached. There's no judgment about that. But think about the way that love splinters us open. And we feel immense connection and attraction towards the person that we behold with love, and total terror that they might not care a bit about who we are or whether we exist. The experience of expansion in ourselves and the diminution of ourselves all at once. Transcendent experience is something that we touch when we gaze at an old-growth forest and feel that electric hum of life echoing between the trees, speaking to each other through the microbiome of the soil, root sending energy to root, and somehow we are blessed to stand there and feel the echo of that communication in our bones. Not belief, not creed, but the shattering experience of life, calling us back to life. And in these paradoxes that transcendence holds together is the crucial paradox of the individual and community. My friend went through his quest and experienced the movement from terror to profound interconnectedness to unconditional maternal love. He traveled in himself a journey that only he could make, but literally held in the arms of those there to guide him. When we experience the shattering and binding power of love, a love that shakes us to our core and breaks us open into light, we feel that in ourselves, but in relationship with another. And if that love leads to a whole nother generation of children, as happened for every one of our lives, y'all, we all came from somewhere. The very experience of love itself creates human community. It generates life. Transcendent experience breaks open all paradigms and beliefs, fuses paradox, and calls the individual into relationship with community. But we have here sacred texts from every major religious tradition in our world today. And there are many more. The Bhagavad Gita, the epic that contains the Bhagavad Gita, the Mahabharata, the Tao Te Ching, and the Analects of Confucius, the Tanakh, the Hebrew Bible, the Holy Scriptures of Judaism, the New Testament, Holy Scriptures of Christianity, the Quran, the Holy Scriptures of Islam. Each of these books, fundamentally, is a story of an individual that experienced transcendence. Moses standing at the burning bush, broken open by a God whose name is I Am, existence itself. And the experience of Moses in that singular moment of rapture is to be called to create community, the people of Israel. Go back and make of my people a people. In the person of Jesus, the people around him experience the divine in a way that we still argue about today. But the purpose wasn't whether he was divine or not. The purpose was the infusion of divinity into the life of that community, the formation of a church that would overturn the Roman Empire through its spiritual and political force. When Muhammad experienced the revelation that resulted in the Quran, the recitation of direct divine experience, he formed a community of Muslims binding together a fractured people of warring tribes. When Confucius perceived through what we could only call the reason of humanism, independent of divinity, that education would create institutions that could bring together the warring states of China to form a nation, how could he possibly know that he would create one of the major economic powers of the 21st century? That was the power of his vision and insight. On and on and on. In each of these stories, individuals, whatever they believe, whatever their religion, whether they hold to a god or many gods or no gods, they experience something that splinters them in a way that is unique to them and paradoxically calls them to form human community once more for the healing of the world. And in every one of their stories, the existing institutions try to kill them for it. Moses' call at the burning bush to form the people of Israel means Pharaoh's going to try to kill him, because bringing those people out of enslavement is going to mess up the Egyptian economy. And not only is Moses going to be in the sniper's target for that, but the tradition that he forms is itself immediately susceptible to adopting all that same institutional violence. At Mount Sinai, the people of Israel perceive the mind-bending power of God, and they are given a law. And immediately people begin breaking the law or excluding other people from the law. And then they enter into a promised land. And we could only say that under the headiness of that new law as a people, they exact genocide against the indigenous population, the Canaanites in the promised land. And fast forward to today, where our own theory of manifest destiny in this country that led to the genocide of millions of Native Americans was substantiated by the story of the ancient Hebrews claiming the land of Israel for their own. And today, Israel is fracturing, fighting with itself over the same contested legacy. Transcendent experience leading to the formation of a liberated human community, but immediately adopting those same institutions of violence. Christianity, in which the person for which that movement is named is obliterated by the Roman Empire because he has proclaimed a beloved community, the kingdom of God, in direct contestation of dominant empire, but whose followers, only centuries later, overturn that empire and make it their own, so that in Gandhi's own day, the British Empire is doing all the very things that the first disciples had revolted against. In Muhammad's own lifetime, the threat against his life and the life of his people is so immediate that he becomes one of the most successful military leaders of his day. And the complex relationship between Islam and state-sanctioned violence continues to our present. Transcendent experience breaks us open to the divine and causes us to form human community. But over and over again, something happens. That community itself becomes dominating and oppressive, corrupt, the very thing that we tried to change. Why? Why? And how could we ever guard against that? In the Bhagavad Gita, a man is seeking the answer to an impossible question, the essential question of human life. What do I do next? He's a warrior caught between the lines of an epic battle, a civil war in his day. And as he looks at those whom he is asked to fight, he sees brothers, cousins, relatives, family, people that he knows and loves, that his duty as a warrior and a leader is asking him to attack. And he freezes. He says, how can I do this? How can this be right? Shouldn't I work for peace? Isn't that what I should do? And in the splintering moment of that question, that crisis of conscience where he doesn't know what to do next, he sees in the face of his charioteer God Almighty and God beyond God. His servant Krishna become the Lord God Vishnu. All life and death contained in this one person, an incarnation of the divine. And And at that moment, the story that we've received says, Great Prince, Arjuna, the answer to your question of what you should do is kill them all. Some of you just let out a sigh of disappointment. Kill them all. It's your duty. It's the caste that you've been born into, the Kshatriya caste, and your job is to exact violence. And after all, they're a bunch of jerks. They cheated you out of your inheritance, and this is justice due. You should do this. Now, before we rush to judgment, we should stay here with the prince. What's being asked of us in the story is to wrestle with the paradox of violence and peace. And if we won't rush forward too quickly, but stay there with him, we'll find a deep truth here, which is the perennial question: when is it right to fight? Is it ever the right time to bloody the nose of the bully on the playground, to face them down and make them stop? And if we will not rush away from this question too fast, we may find answers that are life-giving. But the Bhagavad Gita, this epic poem of Sanskrit, it rushes forward too fast. And it says, there is a right order to the universe. There are people who are sages, people who are leaders, people who are merchants, and people who are servants. And your job is to maintain that social order. And that epic has been used through generations to keep the caste system in India locked in place as divinely ordained. Lest we rush to judgment too fast, we should remember that in the pulpits of the United States, for the majority of our nation's history, white preachers preached the goodness of enslavement based on the Bible to keep the social order locked in place. The ways in which the depths of transcendence are co-opted for institutional violence. But if we hang with that question of conflict and don't rush forward too fast, if we let transcendence hold paradox together, we may find a different way. Because Gandhi was a warrior who perceived that his tool was nonviolence. He engaged in conflict after conflict after conflict with a courage that no weapon could protect him from. And when he confronted the British Empire and his own Indian revolutionaries who advocated for violence instead of nonviolence, he faced brothers and sisters, siblings and family members. He faced his kin and engaged them in a conflict to push them all further. Challenging caste and creed and politics, all difference, to try to create a nation. And when that nation, at the very moment its formation, splintered with partition, and Muslim and Hindu slaughtered each other by more than 1 million across the continent, Gandhi walked into the streets of the town where he lived, unarmed, to call his people back to peace, a prince walking directly into the lines of war, to urge peace. Transcendence holds together paradox we can barely contain. And the cycle of human institutions over and over is to co-opt its power and magic to keep things status quo just like they are. Power and wealth located just where they are. Nothing to change. Calling Jesus a king instead of a man among the people. Muhammad a general instead of a visionary of transcendent insight. Our job is not belief, it's courage. That when we experience the transcendent through music or love, the wonder of the world, or the divine breaking us open, that we go back into every rotten institution we're a part of. And for just the moment we can hold on to it, to make it a community for every life once again.
If you'll turn in your gray hymnals to hymn number 92, Aaron will play through the hymn once to familiarize us with the song. If you'll rise as you're willing and able.
Mysterious presence, source of all the world without the sound within, the fount of life. Oh, hear our call and pour thy living waters in. Thou breathest in the rushing wind, thy spirit stirs in leaf and flower, nor wilt thou from the willing mind withhold thy light and love and power. Thy hand unseen to accents clear awoke the psalmist's trembling ear, then touched the lips of holy seer with flame from thine own altar fire. That touch divine again implied, still give the prophet's burning word, then vocal in each waiting heart, yet living sounds of praise be heard.
Thank you. You may be seated.
We will extinguish our chalice with responsive reading number 646 in your gray hymnal, the Greater Circle. We clasp the hands of those that go before us. We enter the little circle of each other's arms. And the larger circle of others whose hands are joined in this. And the larger the circle of all creatures. As we in our life, who will also in this. to a music so subtle and vast that no ear can hear it.
Next Sunday, Dr. Greg Bashir from Wofford is going to speak. He was scheduled to speak a month ago, and at the last minute he was not able to, and the miraculous Ann Garner, our assistant minister, pulled a sermon out of the Transcendent and offered it to us, and left everybody in tears, so we should spring that on Ann more often. But Dr. Bashir is coming again next week, and I want to urge you to come. He's going to talk about what happened in the first 60 seconds after the Big Bang, 14 billion years ago. And he's going to speak in paradox, because what he's speaking about is a material eruption forming core elements of our cosmos. But the curiosity is that the core elements required for life to evolve billions of years later on our remote and distant planet, which itself depends on asteroids with ice colliding into a magma-dissolved surface, and life first originating among poisonous gas vents that would kill all of us in a second were we to inhale that toxic fume. That in the first 60 seconds, the emergence of our universe, the requirements for life were there. Come hear this physicist who helped build the Hubble telescope speak in paradox. I've belabored today how institutions can co-opt the transcendent and crush everyone. And we're not exempt. You will know that we are in what we have called a what process? Visioning process. Visioning, trying to perceive into ultimate reality and create human community in this place. We are doing the same quest that we've been talking about. And we are doing it for each other and our larger world. I beg you to come. There are 2 more sessions, one on September 28th, one on October 1st, and then a concluding one on November 18th. If you don't come, then the things that will happen after that may feel like you're being crushed. But we want for you to be part of it. And I can tell you that based on the conversations we've had so far, big disruption is coming. So please, 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 don't get crushed. Participate. My son and I love to backpack. And we take with us guidebooks and maps when we go, so that if we get lost, we can get home. And so that if one of us gets hurt, we can find our way. It really helps to have a guide when we're on a path. That if he and I are backpacking, walking for miles and miles every day, and we do like this, we'll miss the trees and the vistas. We'll stare at a dead tree, which is all that paper is, and miss the living, breathing, speaking trees all around us. And if we walk like this, we'll probably walk to our deaths too. Every one of these books has been used as a weapon, and that is not what they're for. Every one of them has been used as a dead tree to burn and to pierce. They are all guidebooks to the transcendent. Take your pick or choose them all. Walk the path and look up at the stars.